What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today is finally the day where we are going to be redoing the tortoise enclosure. Ever since I got him, I talked about doing like a semi-permanent setup where he's going to be in there until he gets to a certain size. That size I'm not too sure. It's probably going to be around the 8 or 9 inch. Anything over that, I think he needs like a much larger enclosure. As you guys know, redfoot tortoises, especially the males, get to a decent size. Something that's big enough where they're going to need to be outside of a bin or an aquarium. They're not a Russian tortoise, they're not a Greek tortoise, they're a little bit bigger, so they need more space. For today's video, you guys know that I have a juvenile redfoot tortoise, in fact a baby redfoot tortoise, and it's only about maybe 4.5 inches long. So it's still a baby, it's still pretty small, it's only about a year old. For right now, he is in this cement mixing tub. I've done a couple of videos on this setup. In particular, he came in a 40-gallon breeder, which size-wise was good, but it was an aquarium, it was see-through, and it just wasn't an ideal setup for the rack system that I have and for him in particular. So I went ahead and I got him the cement mixing tub for a temporary setup until we got what I have now. Before we get into that, I do apologize. I was pretty consistent on uploading for the past couple of weeks every other day, and then we skipped a day. So technically we skipped 2 days, so I do apologize, but we're trying to consistently upload every other day. I don't know exactly what days those land on, but we're doing it, it's happening. It's been 2 weeks, I skipped a day, but we're still going, so we're good on that. I'm really excited to set up this enclosure today. I got a couple little tips and tricks for you guys on how to save some money, and then we're gonna get into it. So to start off, I'm gonna show you guys his current setup. I've done this a million times, I feel like already, but for anyone that's new or hasn't seen it, I'm gonna show you guys the setup right now. This is my redfoot tortoise's setup. As you guys can see, he's right here. Super awesome little guy, super healthy, really vibrant colors. He is in this Home Depot cement mixing tub. This is the small size. This is not the biggest one that they have. This is the only one that would fit with my current rack system. So this is what we have. He is obviously doing okay in here. He's got what he needs, but it's not filling up the full space that we potentially could have for a new setup. And that's what that is over there. So what we're gonna do is be taking obviously this off, putting the new bin in, and then we're gonna be using the remaining things and adding a couple other things into the setup. We are going to be doing a full substrate swap. So this old cypress mulch and eco earth is gonna be swapped out just because he's been in this for about a month now. I would probably switch it out every 2 months since it's not like a bioactive setup, but he obviously urinates and probably poops in it, so we need to change that out. And then I'll probably do that in a couple months after this video. If you guys also didn't know, or if you were curious, we've got his UVB lighting set up over here. Another reason why I didn't want to go with the 40-gallon breeder aquarium, you don't get as much UVB through a screen lid as you would with just an open setup. So I really do like these open top setups. As you guys can see, his heat bulb is over there. It's just a simple 75-watt bulb, and it keeps the area really nice. We've got a temp gun on the way, so we are gonna be able to record his temperatures. Let's get him set up. I'm gonna take this thing down and we will put up the new tub. Before I get into actually going over what I bought, I do wanna point out, I know it's clear. Now, with tortoises, of course, you can see through this. It's not even like it's opaque. This is just a clear tub, which is bad for a tortoise because they can see through it. They're not gonna know that it's an actual wall, so they're gonna continuously walk through it. So what I was gonna do with the 40-gallon breeder was, well, what I did the first time was I taped off just a section of the enclosure. That's kind of tacky. I don't think I'm gonna do that for this one. I think what I'm gonna do eventually is plastidip about 3 inches around so that it's gonna be obviously the substrate and then just a black ring around the rim, which is perfectly fine. He's not gonna be able to see through it. It'll still be somewhat appealing for us. For the price and the size, I think this is a perfect setup. I'm gonna get the receipts. I kept these specifically for this video so I can show you guys what I spent to set up a really simple enclosure. Of course, I did not buy today the log, I didn't buy the dishes, obviously the lights or the fixtures, but for the tub itself and upgrading it from the cement mixing tub to this, I'm gonna show you guys the price on that. A couple things and then we'll get into the video. I went specifically with a plastic tub. First reason being, I was gonna do a wood setup and pretty much build a box for this specific size, but I don't have the time for it, and for the price, I think it was much better to go with this setup, because in a few years we're gonna have to eventually do a different setup to handle his size. So that is the first reason we went with a tub. Second reason is going to be a plastic tub versus wood is gonna hold humidity. With a wood setup, I was gonna line it with a plastic liner, but just in general, a plastic tub with the substrate, when they do burrow down, it's gonna hold that humidity into the substrate. So it's really good to have a plastic tub. That's why I recommended it for a ball python, because they do need that humidity, and this is gonna do great at holding that. So that's the second reason. We're gonna go ahead and take this off and then get into setting up his enclosure. If you guys want specific dimensions for this particular one, this is 35.48 inches long by 18.54 inches deep, and then it's 7 inches tall. So it's almost equivalent to the base of a 40-gallon breeder. It's about an inch shorter, and I think it's a little bit deeper, and then of course it's shorter, but for the floor dimensions, that's pretty much what it's gonna be. It fills out most of, if not all of, the space. Moving on, we've got the substrate. So instead of buying Reptibark and Eco Earth, I'm a huge fan of Eco Earth. It holds humidity really well. It's gonna be a lot of volume of substrate that we need to put in. So I went to Home Depot and I bought cypress mulch, and we're gonna go ahead and throw that in there with more of the topsoil. That's gonna hold that humidity in there. I'm gonna see how this substrate works. It was about $4.50 for this bag, and I think like $2.50 for that bag. So a bag this size of Reptibark would be like $45, and then a bag that size of Eco Earth would be like $35. So we saved a lot of money there. I'm gonna see how this substrate works with holding humidity. It's completely clean. It does not have any additives into it or any like plant food. So this is gonna be fine for the tortoise. We're gonna go ahead and throw it in here, mix it up, and see how we like it. I think we got a good little mixture going. We're gonna go ahead and spread this more evenly. We've got roughly 3 inches in here. Some spots are gonna be a little bit higher than others. I think I'm actually gonna add a little bit more, just because I know this guy does like to burrow. So we obviously want him to have that ability, but right away, he already, I can tell, is gonna have so much more space in this setup versus this little guy down here. A little bit in there, let's actually add some more. A couple new things I bought were these aloe vera plants. These are, well, you guys can't even really see them. These are safe for tortoises to eat, so if he were to munch on these guys, that's okay. They're more for aesthetics, and then every once in a while I could snap off a piece. They are succulent, so they grow back fairly easily. And we'll throw one on each side of the enclosure. I'm probably gonna need 2 hands to do this, but you guys get the idea. The lights in here aren't for growing necessarily, but these guys should do fine. Every once in a while, since they're still in the pots, I can take them out, put them outside in the sun, water them, put them back in. So we're still finding a position for this plant, but what we did is put his hide in. This is, again, temporary. What I'm gonna do eventually is basically put a piece of wood that'll come out to this corner, and pretty much this will be his hide spot, because as you guys can see, he's only going to be able to be as big as this cutout for him to hide in it. So if he gets any bigger, he's not really going to be able to hide in that, so we need to eventually figure out a different setup for him. What I like to do is basically run my hand in the back and then pull out any substrate so that he kind of has a little bit of like a burrow, essentially, because these animals do burrow, or at least mine does. And then we'll spread out the rest of that substrate. Next, we have his water dish. Super important that it's big enough for him to submerge in. As you guys can see, he could fit technically in his his food dish, but his water dish is so big and nice that we're gonna go ahead and incorporate it into this. So let's go ahead and pull some of this substrate back. It's gonna go on his cool side, of course, because we don't want that water evaporating really fast. And just like that, we are done. So we put his water dish, like I said, on the cool side as well as his hide. We dug out a little burrow for him to kind of get in there and hang out, get some humidity. And then we've got his food dish on this side. This is on the warm side, but it should be fine. Of course, like I said, his water dish. We put an aloe plant in the middle of the setup just to make it look a little appealing. And then of course the larger aloe plant in the corner there. He's got his basking light here, so he'll be able to bask under here. And of course his UVB light, just the whole enclosure, and I love that. So anywhere he goes in the setup, of course besides his hide, he's going to be soaking up UVB, which that's huge. So we are going to give him some fresh water obviously give him some fresh food, and then we're going to water down the substrate a little bit, make sure that it's humid but not soaking wet, and then water the plants, and we'll be good to introduce the tortoise to his new home. We sprayed down the substrate a little bit, gave it a nice misting, made sure that it's going to hold humidity, gave the plants a little bit of a watering. Of course, we've got fresh water in his dish, and we cleaned that out. We also cleaned off his hide a little bit so that obviously there was no like residue of food or any poop on there. His food dish we cleaned out. We're gonna put some fresh food in there for him, and then yeah, everything's looking really good. We've got his substrate spread out pretty evenly. He's got places to burrow, and he's got just so much more walking space. He can pretty much crawl around this whole little area. He can go and explore the plants and, you know, go from food to water, and it's great. So I'm really happy for him. The one thing that I really need to get dialed in is this 3 inches of clear that he's going to be able to see through. I might just run a strip of tape tonight and then eventually plasti dip, you know, that 2 or 3 inches for him so he can't see through that. But for now, we're good. We're going to do masking tape on that in probably the next couple of minutes. But let's introduce the little redfoot tortoise. Boom. As you guys can see, he is a small little guy, so this enclosure should suit him very well for at least the next year or so. If he gets a little bit bigger, I might upgrade the reptile rack to the 48 inch and make sure that he has a 4-foot enclosure. For now, he's got a 3-foot enclosure, and I think he should be okay with this. As you can see, he's already interested in the aloe plant, so I'm probably gonna go get him some green so that he'll focus on that instead. But yeah, he's going for it. Anyways, we'll see how this substrate does. It looks like it's gonna hold pretty well. It's got, like I said, the topsoil and mulch, but we might need to switch over to mulch and cocoa fiber. I'm not too sure. Very stoked. I know this video was long due. He, of course, was long due for a new setup, so we finally got him in there. Looks like he's gonna go retreat to his little hide. If you guys have any questions about pricing or how I did anything in this setup, please comment down below. View from the outside, this is the rack. Of course, the lighting in here is terrible right now. We've got the leopard gecko, ball python's gonna go up there, and then we've got the redfoot tortoise. So super awesome. Lighting setup is sweet. Hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. Anyways, that is going to be it for the redfoot tortoise enclosure. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, please comment down below. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.